more recent decades, that gap is closing quite a bit. And so I've always received a lot of questions about what is it about the United States. And my response is I don't think the United States actually has a disproportionate number of serial killers, because if you think about what it takes, for example, to get into our database or for somebody to label somebody as a serial killer, think about what has to happen. Number one is the person has to kill, 2 or more people. Somebody has to find the bodies. Somebody has to then link the bodies as being from the same killer. Somebody then has to arrest the serial killer. That information then has to be publicized either in the media or by law enforcement, and then it has to be in a language where people who study serial killers are going to read it and understand it. And so I think what you find is that the reason that we have so many in the U.S. is that, number one, we've got a very good law enforcement system. The U.S. certainly has no problems with publicizing murders when they occur, and it's just easier to get that type of information. And if you look, for example, at the murder rate across various countries, the United States is about right in the middle. And so if you think about just a murder rate, if we're in the middle, does it make any sense that we would be number one by such a large margin in serial killing? It doesn't make sense, other than the fact that the U.S. is just better at identifying them, catching them, and publicizing them.
And last question on my end, because I know you're up past your bedtime, which I totally understand because I'm with you there. And I appreciate that, by the way, is that, you talked about how since the 80s, the serial killer statistics have actually gone down. Do you think, and again, this is just, you don't have to have any kind of specific expertise, but I'm just wondering from your perspective, do you think that's because they changed the type of killer they are? Because, there is this debate as to what's what, the spree killers, mass murders, that type of thing. Or is it just one of those things where, I don't know, I don't want to say society's getting better, but there's just less of that type of crime? I don't know.
Well, I'd like to say that if Dr. Phil has changed the world, but I don't think I can. I don't think I can use that really as an excuse. But I think there's a couple reasons for it. Okay, one of them is longer prison sentences. If you look at a lot of the serial killers, they killed, they went to prison, they got out, they killed again, and so the fact that we have longer prison sentences, they're not getting out to do that second kill or that third kill. But another reason, and this is something that Michael Surratt at Springfield College and I did a study on a couple of years ago that we thought was kind of interesting, is that it's just harder to get for serial killers to get victims, especially younger ones these days. And if you go back and look, for example, in the 1970s and look at child victims of serial killers, and you look at how they were captured or attacked, it was things such as they were riding their bike going down the street, they were walking to school, people were hitchhiking. And so if you look at adults, for example, people who picked up hitchhikers, people that helped stranded motorists. So there was a lot of what we call free range behavior. You were out there just doing your thing. You weren't you trusted strangers maybe more than you should. And if you compare those types of things in the 70s and 80s versus, let's say, the decade of 2000, you see a complete change in the nature of how serial killers are getting their victims. And so I think it's again, longer sentences. It's more difficult to find the victims than it had been before. And I think law enforcement is getting better and better at being able to do the linkages and with things like DNA, be able to catch serial killers.
Well, I tell you what, you came in, you gave a lot of perspective, and I say this all the time whenever we have, somebody that's in a field that a lot of people aren't familiar with. I think you gave a lot of perspective that nobody had, and I'm glad you elaborated on, all those different characteristics of serial killers and what makes a serial killer, all of those things. Mike, if you have anything that you wanted to throw out there, the website for people to visit, the one that I visit frequently, go for it. If not, then I will let you go to bed.
I think I've told you all the exciting things I know.
Well, I tell you what, you were a wealth of knowledge, and I seriously appreciate it. Again, anytime you want to come back, if there's anything you want to talk about, and in fact, I'll probably hit you up myself here in a few months, who knows. But yeah, you were great. I really appreciate it. And again, get some rest. And glad you're feeling better, by the way.
Oh, well, thanks. It's great talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You take care of yourself, and we'll talk down the line, okay?
Sounds good. Take care.
Absolutely. And everybody, that was Dr. Mike Aamodt. And he's a professor at Radford University, Department of Psychology. And let me just say, that's my type of guy right there, the type of guy that compiles stats and things like that. I'm not sure I could sit there and look at crime photos and things like that. It's kind of interesting. I'm sure you're there, Vic, but you haven't quite clicked in yet. But the first hour, even though I love Timothy Mark, he's more like Vic, whereas Dr. Aamot's more like me. Vic, are you alive? Bueller? Vic, are you alive? Well, apparently it's just going to be me.
Yeah, I'm
All
here.
right, there you are.
God damn it, I'm here. What's up, buddy?
You going to talk to me?
Yeah, I guess.
So what do you think of the guest
great,
that I brought on? I thought it was cool
I thought
that
it
he
was
was
awesome.
able to explain to people, because when people start telling me, well, that's not a serial killer, that's not a serial killer, man, there's different criteria out there, and I really don't care what's what. To me, they're killing people, and it doesn't have to be a serial killer. That's just kind of the generic term for it.
Yeah. But I kind of broke, not the whole, place and whatever.
Right.
I don't know, man, but I'm still going off the first guy.
Yeah, they were both pretty awesome in different ways. So you
They
got
were.
the hardcore fan perspective there, and then you got the technical, psychological perspective there, and I thought it was really cool. Different change up there. By the way, everybody listening, now's the time to tweet us or email us, because I'm about to throw out clue number 3, Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill is clue number 3. If you want a chance to win a book right now, tweet us, email us. It's on the page you're listening to right now. Buffalo Bill, again, is your third code. So, Vic, you may have a guest with you. If you would like to bring her on, I'd like to speak to her.
All right, I guess this time, Connie fucking May. Here you go.
Hey.
Connie, I'm going to go ahead and ask you. So, I can hear her. I'm going to ask her who her favorite serial killer is, even though I already know.
Absolutely. Dahmer.
All right. So, actually, it was using that as a segue. So I need to warn you, you're not going to be happy about the news that I have for you. But there's a week left, so it can change. Dahmer is 4 votes behind between Vic's guy, Ted Bundy, in the voting. So if people want to hear us talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal, on August 17th, well, you better get your asses to travinvichorror.wordpress.com and go vote for Mr. Dahmer, because he's losing right now to the suave Ted Bundy, the man who Vic hopes wins. But you know what? I'm good with either one of them. And Richard Ramirez, you fans out there of the Night Stalker, he is not far off, so he has an opportunity to still win this thing too. We are... we've got a week away. We're going to announce it on the Texas Chainsaw Show next week. And also, let me just say that that will be the show when we announce our winners of these contests. Vic, I'm sure you have some news for maybe people that tuned in for the first time, some Ed Gein fans that enjoy the Chainsaw series. Can you tell us who's going to be on next week?
Yeah, Red Shorts herself, probably the most iconic shot in a cinematic short. Man will be on the show. And one of my favorite people at it, and first met him, Georgetown Drive-In. He's a guy. He's not a little. He is John Dugan, Grandpa from the original Chainsaw Massacre.
There you go. So 2 original chainsawers left. We've lost Marilyn Burns, unfortunately, so never going to get to talk to her again. But, I find it kind of interesting with Timothy Mark. While you've never been as extreme as what he said, he's not a big Gunnar Hansen fan.
I don't like it. He's Gunnar fucking Hansen. Let's be honest. But
well, Vic, I heard about 3 words of what you said.
Man,
he's Gunnar fucking Hansen.
He is Gunnar.
Yeah, just a heads up. You're kind of in and out there, but I'm gonna throw out some more plugs for the upcoming shows. I'm gonna try to have Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 on the week after that. Part 3 will probably be August 24th, maybe, because August 17th will be another serial killer show. And in September, Vic's already made a decision as to who our serial killer will be, but I'm going to let him hold off on that announcement. For everybody who's listened in live, again, we've thrown out 3 clues so far. And again, I said that if you listen to the show live, and you tweet us or email us the clues, you have the opportunity. So I'm going to throw out the 3 clues again. So for anybody who maybe missed the first few minutes for whatever it is, now's your opportunity to catch up. The first clue was Norman Bates. The second clue, or the second code rather, is Leatherface. And the third is Buffalo Bill. So those are the 3 so far. I'll throw out one before the end of the show. Vic, don't let me get off the line before I do, okay? Poor Vic's just having all sorts of issues.
Yes,
anyway, there you are. Well, sort of. You're in and out, sir. I can only hear a little bit of you, but kind of to wrap up the Ed Gein discussion, Vic would agree with this. It's something that he had posted on Facebook earlier today, and something we've talked about for weeks. Ed Gein is the most influential serial killer of all time, or at least of the last century, because you've got Leatherface, you've got Norman Bates, you've got Buffalo Bill, you've got those 3 guys that are all based on Ed Gein, and then there's countless others that maybe we don't even know. But I mean, all that stuff really comes down to Ed Gein. And while Ed Gein may have not been the most prolific serial killer, he was probably one of the most bizarre, I guess is what I'm looking for.
Hey, remember that movie we watched, 3 on the Meat Hook? You remember that movie?
I do. That would be another Ed. I would
assume
Ed Gein influence there. I think it's interesting how, and again, Timothy talked about this, how bad Ed Gein was screwed up, almost primarily because of his mother. You know what I mean? His mother played such a huge role in what he became, which could be true of a lot of people, but to the extent that Ed Gein became such a sicko, I mean, all because, that's just not normal shit that she was doing. And so pretty bizarre stuff. Ed Gein, and Vic, you would know this, it ain't easy being Gein.
It's not. It is not easy being Gein.
Well, by the way, when we talk about what we've been watching, I'll go ahead and throw this out here right now. I did watch Ed Gein, The Butcher of Plainfield. I didn't hate it like I expected to, but, of course, I'm sitting there saying, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Ed Gein was scrawny. Kane Hodder's huge. Those types of things. But it was still kind of entertaining in its own way. If you can kind of take it as a mashup between Ed Gein, Psycho, and Texas Chainsaw, I always like seeing Kane Hodder in a movie, too. And of course, yeah, I'm still there, but it's you that's not really... I mean, when you just said, are you still there, I heard that, but the rest of it, it's not really getting in there.
Well, that's all I said 10 minutes, so I think we're good.
You what?
That is, so I think we're good.
All right. All right. So anyway, Vic, he is actually one of the few serial killers and the only one that we've talked about so
Hey,
far
goddamn.
yeah. I don't know